Okay, I'm going to just give you a spin of a little bit of this track so you know the kind of thing that I'm going to be working with. And then we'll go through how the vocals have been processed.
Maybe I'll take the silver dream. All that sparkles is not gold. Won't make me do what I have been told. I'm working on the mean machine, making sure it don't mess with me. I gotta keep it together and still believe, 'cause I'm searching for my destiny.
So that's the first part of the track. Now, as we move into the second part of the track, the beats change and get a lot heavier.
Take the silver dream.
Now, apologies for the slightly random violin. So what I wanted to take you through was how I've coped with a vocal that needs to stay strong when everything changes around it. Okay? And the way that I've achieved this is by utilizing parallel processing and changing the levels that are being sent to those parallel processes as the track progresses. So the lead vocal itself has not a great deal happening. It has been compressed slightly as it was recorded, using slow attack and quick release and a ratio of 3:1. And then I've just added a bit of filter, a little bit of 1.5K, a multi-presser, so just compressing. If I get this, come on, where are you? You're down here. Compressing a certain area of frequency around 380 hertz, which gets dipped out a little bit. This is because a lot of the processes that I'm going to use will warm things up. So what I don't want is to have too much warmth hitting it straight away. So you'll notice that when she sings, if I put it in solo, it's just dipping a bit out.
Maybe I'll take.
And before that, and just after it hits this compressor, this is a VCA style compressor. The reason I use the VCA is because it's got the fastest response and it's the most transparent. And that's just attacking the beginnings.
Maybe I'll take the silver dream.
Quick attack, quick release, attacking the beginning of notes. just to hold the transient.
All that sparkles is not gold. No.
So it's leveling everything out. Okay. So what we need to do is have a look at some of the bits that are going on. I'm going to deal with the things that are adding power first, and then we'll look at the spatial effects afterwards. So we just turn all this off and switch the first one on. So if I also have a look at the automation, this can be quite important depending on how much I've automated these. Now, if I look at here on this particular vocal, we haven't changed anything on this parallel, but if you look at the parallel above this track is showing me this, and I did that by right-clicking on it and going create track, and it gave me the opportunity to create a track. So prior to the prior to a particular section happening, we have one level.
All that.
Let's go forward to where that happens. And listen. So without.
I'm walking on the main machine.
Now I'll add it.
Oh yeah. Trying hard to keep it clean.
If we put it in solo.
Dead ahead in a glitter scene. Oh, maybe I'll take the silver dream.
So you can hear what the kind of sound that it's making. And I'm making that by using something that's going to saturate and overdrive the vocal. This particular plugin I like because it allows me to choose which harmonics I'm going to saturate. So it doesn't saturate and distort all of the harmonics in a vocal. And afterwards we've got another one of these VCA compressors, and it's hitting it very hard.
I'm walking on the main machine. Oh yeah. Trying hard to keep it clean.
Okay? So let's listen to it and hear when it turns up, you hear a little bit more of it. So let's just do it from one to the other.
Maybe I'll take the silver dream.
And then
Oh yeah, yeah.
if I take it out,
All that sparkles is not gold. No.
and I'll put it back in.
It's not gold. No, no. Won't lose control, no.
So you should be able to hear that it's giving it a little bit more power. It's making it feel a little bit more like it's got more attitude, because underneath it, it's got a track that has loads of attitude and is distorting slightly.
Not gonna get me like that, babe. Not gonna go out like that, no. Maybe I'll
And it just allows me, again, by having control over the amount that I'm sending to this additional processing, I can change that during the track. So it doesn't sound too heavy when the beats are lighter, and then when the beats get heavier, it has more attitude to kind of basically cope with that and not feel like it's been drowned out. So the other parallel processing that's being added to it is, again, some distortion, but with no tops on the distortion. So let's just play it for a minute.
maybe I'll take.
And this is adding low end. So if I take it away,
Maybe I'll take the silver dream.
and then play it with it,
Maybe I'll take
it's adding all that.
the silver dream.
Okay? So the way I've done that is just to EQ off all the tops, okay, before it hits this thing called CLA guitar. Now, this CLA guitar, I find it quite useful because inside it, it has a compressor, it has a way of turning up bass and treble, but it has this reamp section with different types of guitar distortion. So without the EQ, it would sound like this.
Maybe I'll take.
And then I add the filter.
Maybe I'll take.
And it just does this. Now this is a trick that I stole from a really famous mix engineer called Tony Maserati. And Tony Maserati is still a very, very busy mix engineer and kind of got known for mixing R&B and soul. But he also mixed a track, famously produced a track called Bohemian Like You by the Dandy Warhols, which you might know. And he uses real amps to send the sound off to of the vocal, and then mic up the amp, and then do the same thing that I've done with the EQ. And then, again, in the choruses, he adds more, and in the verses has less. So it's just essentially a distortion or overdrive channel that's been EQ'd really heavily. Okay? Now, let's have a, before we move on to the spatial stuff, let's just have a look at Easy Lover and see, just using Logic stock plugins, how those things can be achieved. So set up one bus for Logic with a bit crusher that you're driving, an EQ where you're removing some of the tops, and some heavy compression here. Okay. I'll take some snapshots of the settings for you and then send you the pictures. I think would be a good thing.